Narcissists trade on sympathy like a currency. How to deal with narcissists in a professional setting. So the first step in dealing with narcissists is recognizing what you're dealing with. There's a lot of really good content out there, and I'll link it below about how to recognize a narcissist. Sometimes you encounter narcissists and you're just forced to deal with it. Could be a supervisor, could be a boss, could be a coworker, and it's not easy to change jobs, and quite frankly, you change jobs to get away from a narcissist, you're probably just going to encounter another narcissist. And some are more difficult to navigate than others. One of the things that narcissists do, that if you learn to recognize it, it becomes one of those things that you really just can't unsee. Narcissists trade on sympathy like a currency. They're always either looking for sympathy or they're giving sympathy, because that is the easiest form of emotional manipulation. You can recognize a narcissist based on what they're motivated by. When you learn to recognize the signs, it becomes quite apparent as soon as you see it. The narcissists are primarily motivated by appearances. They are absolutely motivated to control perception, which, in the irony of ironies, is like the one thing in the world that you can't control. Recognizing that narcissists trade on sympathy. For example, one of the things that you'll see a narcissist do is they will absolutely exaggerate or outright fabricate emotional hardships in their lives. An example of that might be a sick relative. And what they'll do after they've noticed that you've noticed, they'll milk it for all it's worth. And the thing is, it could be a complete fabrication, could be somebody they're not particularly close to. I mean, narcissists aren't really close to anybody. Narcissists surround themselves with people that they can manipulate. And that's generally what happens with narcissists in the end, is they run out of people to manipulate. I've seen the pattern repeat itself too many times for it not to be true. And they often die alone. But what you'll see is narcissists often go from one group cluster to another. Like, you might see them leave a job and then they go to another job, and then there's a whole fresh batch of people to manipulate. You'll see them express a little vulnerability. And then, because human nature is reciprocal, you'll find sympathetic people share a similar sentiment. For example, if you find out a guy's got a sick relative, oh my God, my uncle died of cancer last year. And that creates a little bit of a bond. And that's the first string that narcissists tend to pull on. Narcissists take a person's caring nature and turn it against them. They essentially manipulate their emotions to where the logical side of their brain kind of gets overridden a little bit. And they do it a little bit at a time. They don't swing for the fences right away, because that raises red flags. But what it is they start asking for little things. I've seen it in romantic relationships where a narcissistic dude will start asking a woman for, oh, I need $50 for this, or I need $100 so that my electric doesn't get shut off, or oh my God, I'm getting my hours cut at work, whatever it happens to be. They're little manipulations to get people invested, because people like to help. And you see it in the workplace a lot too. You might see a dude manipulate a person into starting to do a little bit of his or her work, and a little bit more of his or her work after that, especially if they're good at their job. And if they're good at their job, the narcissist will recognize this, and they will absolutely take credit for the output. They'll create a sense of urgency. Say, oh my God, I am never going to meet this deadline. Can you please help me with this task? It's very a sycophant type relationship. Sycophanatic? I'll have to look that one up. And it's really unfortunate because people get hurt. And even if they heal from it, there are always scars. But if you recognize these types of things, you can avoid all that. Now, if it's somebody 2 cubicles away, or a boss, whatever it happens to be, quite frankly, there's probably not a lot you can do to get away from that situation, at least in the short term. But there are ways to navigate it effectively. And the most effective manner of dealing with a narcissist, if you listen to any psychologist or any professional, they'll tell you the most effective way is gray walling. And gray walling, if you're not familiar, is just simply treating every interaction as black and white as you possibly can. Yes or no answers, short, straight to the point, no pleasantries, no manipulation. You get the information you're there to get and you move on. As cold as that sounds, that's pretty much the only way to navigate those situations, because the narcissist will take anything that they think they can manipulate. Give them an inch, they will take a mile, because they view all human beings as putty in their hands and subject to manipulation to get what they want and then be discarded when they're no longer useful. Which is what happens with narcissists. Eventually they're found out, and everyone in a particular group will learn to avoid them or her, and they'll eventually move on. They need a fresh batch of people to manipulate, because it's better to quit and go to another job than it is to get fired. How do narcissists typically operate initially? What you'll often see is that they will talk themselves up. Narcissists love to talk about what they've done in the past, especially if they're going from one company to another. They'll talk about, their accomplishments or who they know. And you'll notice a trend when listening to narcissists talk. It's that always make boastful claims that can't easily be verified. Often you just kind of have to take them at their word. So they might say, they accomplished this, this, and this at their previous employer, or they know, this high-profile person, or whatever it happens to be. And unless you're willing to do a lot of legwork, you're realistically not going to follow up on that, because, quite frankly, you're not thinking about this person. So narcissists are very good at making themselves impressive initially. Ways to spot a narcissist: boastful claims, trading on sympathy, small, inconsequential, emotional vulnerabilities, little things to get you to let your guard down and to make you think highly of them, because that's ultimately what motivates a narcissist: perception and what people think. Problem is, they can never back it up. And that's why they're always constantly needing new people. Sad, but that's their nature. You can't fight it, learn to deal with it. And on that note, that's what I got for you. See you on the next one.